Right now, somewhere in your house, your phone is within arm's reach. You picked it up 11 times in the last hour, maybe more. Nothing was wrong, nothing needed you. You just felt that itch, that flat, gray feeling, and your thumb moved before your brain even asked permission. You call it boredom. But the real answer is far stranger than a feeling you're trying to kill. Boredom is not a modern glitch. It is a 40,000-year-old alarm system, and your caveman ancestors heard it just as loudly as you do. The difference is what they did next. Picture a small band of early humans, maybe 25 people, camped near a river. It's midday. The hunting party left at dawn and won't be back until dusk. The children are asleep. There's nothing to build, nothing to chase, nothing to eat right in front of you. What do you do with that stretch of empty time? For decades, anthropologists assumed the answer was simple. You rest because survival is exhausting and every idle hour is a gift. And that part is true, but it's not the whole story. The anthropologist Richard Lee spent years studying the Jew Huansi San people of the Kalahari, one of the last populations to live something close to a traditional hunter-gatherer life. He expected to find people worked to the bone. Instead, he clocked their subsistence work at around 15 to 20 hours a week. The rest of the time? Filled. Not filled with nothing. Filled with something your ancestors couldn't survive without. Attention management. Here's the strange part. Boredom isn't the absence of stimulation. It's the presence of unused attention, with nowhere productive to go. Your brain evolved to treat that state as dangerous. Not annoying. Dangerous. Think about why. An animal that sits perfectly content doing nothing is an animal that stops noticing threats, stops noticing opportunities, stops noticing the fruit tree that's finally ripe 2 valleys over. Boredom, in an evolutionary sense, is a nervous system saying, redirect me or we lose an edge. So what did that redirection look like 40,000 years ago? Tool maintenance, for one. Constantly. A spear doesn't stay sharp on its own. A woven basket doesn't repair itself. Idle hours were absorbed by small, repetitive, almost meditative labor, knapping stone, twisting cordage, scraping hides. The kind of work that keeps hands busy while the mind wanders somewhere else entirely. Storytelling filled the rest. The anthropologist Polly Wiesner studied the Kung and found something remarkable. During the day, conversation was almost entirely practical. Complaints, gossip, logistics. But after dark, around the fire, the subject changed almost completely. Nearly all nighttime talk was storytelling, myths, histories, jokes about people who weren't there. Wiesner argued this wasn't idle chatter. It was how information about alliances, enemies, and distant relatives traveled across a landscape with no writing and no roads. Boredom, in other words, didn't get killed. It got aimed. There's a researcher named John Eastwood at York University who spends his career studying boredom in the modern brain, and he describes it almost exactly the way an early human might have felt it. Boredom is the uncomfortable feeling of wanting to be engaged in a satisfying activity, but being unable to do so. Notice what's missing from that definition. It isn't wanting entertainment, it's wanting engagement, something that uses you. Your ancestors had almost no cheap engagement available, no screens, no easy dopamine. If you were bored on that riverbank, your only real options were slow ones. Carve, weave, teach a child something, walk somewhere and look for food, or sit with your own thoughts until they turned into a plan. That's the part almost nobody talks about. Boredom used to be the doorway to planning. When your mind has nothing external to grab onto, it doesn't go blank, it starts simulating. Where will we move the camp next season? What will happen if the rains come late? What does that strange sound at the tree line mean? Cognitive scientists now believe this kind of unfocused, self-generated thought, what's sometimes called the brain's default mode network, was doing serious evolutionary work. It rehearsed futures. It replayed dangers. It built the mental models your ancestors needed to survive a world with no instructions. Now, compare that to what happens the moment you feel bored today. You reach for your phone in under 8 seconds, according to multiple attention studies over the past decade. 8 seconds. That's not even enough time for the discomfort to build into a thought, let alone a plan. The psychologist Sandy Mann, who has run some of the most detailed experiments on boredom, found something almost unsettling. People who are allowed to sit with boredom, even briefly, before doing a creative task consistently generate more original ideas than people who are handed constant stimulation. Her subjects who were bored first, then asked to think of new uses for a paper cup, came up with wilder, more inventive answers than the group that skipped straight to the task. Boredom, it turns out, isn't a bug your ancestors were trying to patch. It was pressure. And pressure, applied over enough generations, built minds that could plan, imagine, and connect dots no other species on the planet could connect. Here's the twist that should genuinely unsettle you. Your ancestors couldn't escape boredom quickly, so their brains were forced to use it. You can escape it in 8 seconds, so your brain never has to. The alarm still goes off exactly the way it did 40,000 years ago. But instead of answering it with a spear to sharpen or a story to tell, you answer it with a swipe that resets the timer before the discomfort can do its job. You haven't lost the ability to sit in that gray feeling and turn it into something. You've just never had to. The tool got faster than the instinct. So, the next time that itch shows up, the flat, restless, reach for your phone feeling, remember what it actually is. Not a malfunction, not something to kill in 8 seconds. It's the same signal a person by a fire 40,000 years ago felt, right before they picked up a half-finished spear or started a story that would outlive them. Because the truth is, you were never designed to escape that empty stretch of time. You were designed to fill it with something that lasts.